This is Molly Casares, aka Austerity Cornflakes, and I'm recording this on the 25th of September 2024. I am, I suppose, an interdisciplinary artist. I work a lot with paint, but I also am a storyteller, I write, I do academic research, and I print make and do collage as well. I grew up in Hastings, but I've lived in Bristol for about 5 years now, and I moved here when I was 18 to pursue an integrated master's in liberal arts, which I graduated from last year. I grew up as an only child, so I spent a lot of time alone with my imagination, sort of existing in multiple imaginary worlds. Alongside that, both of my parents worked for the NHS in the mental health services, which I think taught me to consider the relationship between a person's internal and external worlds. And I think that that's something that's become very significant in my work. In particular, the idea that imagination is used as a tool to comprehend and make sense of the external world around us. I would say that inspiration for the imagery and themes that crop up in my work come from all over the place. Some from art history, some from books that I've read, novels, some from TV sitcoms and reality TV even. My name that I use for my art, Austerity Cornflakes, that actually is taken from Peep Show. I came up with it when I was about 16, and I was a big fan of Peep Show at the time, and I just liked the phrasing of those two words together. And I also really liked the idea of having an art alias and having that level of, I guess, anonymity, I thought at the time. And I was also really inspired by a lot of female writers, such as Charlotte Bronte, who, when she was first publishing, used the male pseudonym Cara Bell as a way to kind of get her work in front of publishers. I would say that my biggest influences and biggest inspirations in my art making and my creative practice are Dorothea Tanning and Paula Rego, both of whom were artists as well as writers. I really admire the way that both of them utilise storytelling and imagination in their work. And both of them use this really interesting blend of childlike playfulness with more sinister themes and real distortion, which is visible in the work. I'm also very interested in the ways in which both of them use this weird blend of natural and unnatural imagery to create something that is at once an image of innocence, but also is something that is quite disturbing. Dorothea Tanning once remarked on the limitless expanse of possibility in surrealist art, which is something that I heavily identify with, especially in the way in which I view imagination as a creative tool and as a limitless tool. Right now, I'm focusing on several projects because I can never seem to just focus on one thing at one time. I'm currently making a collage book, as well as writing a short story, which is based in Greek mythology, about a little cyclops called Etna. I'm currently working on the illustrations and storyboarding that. I'm also working to improve my realism for my painting. It's something that I've wanted to work on for quite a while, and since I didn't go to art school, I feel that that's something where that's a technical skill that I lack a little and would like to improve. I think that the biggest challenges of being an artist today are the pressure to be constantly producing, and sort of building on that, the pressure to find your thing, like your specific style or your medium, and then keep producing work in that style or in that way. It sometimes feels to me that consistency and repetitiveness are the ways to garner attention and to make money in the art world today. And that's not really something that I find fits in with my creative practice, where I want to try and do as many things in as many different ways as I possibly can. And I often feel this pressure to find a style and find a style to stick to. Whereas I think actually art is something, an artistic practice is something that should always be evolving and constantly changing, in the same way that our imagination and our inner world are constantly changing and constantly going down new roads and finding new directions. Going off of that, the advice that I would give to my younger self is actually something that one of my art history professors said to me a couple of years ago, and she was, we were standing in front of a big series of paintings that I was working on, big ones. I think this series was about 7 foot tall. And we were just standing in front of them and chatting, and she said to me, "Never stop painting," which sounds really simple. But I think that she just really understood how important it is for me to be creative and to do creative things. And yeah, it really struck me at the time. And that's the advice I would give to my younger self. It's the advice I give to myself now. And it's the advice I give to my future self as well. When I'm creating, I try not to be held back by sort of the proper or the technical way to do things. I find that allows me to create things or like textures that are a lot more interesting. So recently I've been working a lot with food and paint. I was working on a painting the other day, and I actually ended up using some old like desiccated coconut that I found in the bottom of a drawer, and mixing that with white paint, and then sort of using my hands to sort of splodge it onto the canvas, which was great fun, but also it made for quite an interesting texture. Other than that, when I was at college, I mean, the weirdest thing I've ever done is I made a life-size body out of nude tights, cushion stuffing, and raw meat, and then filmed myself doing an autopsy on it. And I carried it into college. I did it at the college I was at the time. Walked into college with it slung over my shoulder. I definitely got some quite funny and quite disturbed looks when I did that. When I'm working, I sometimes listen to music, or sometimes I work in silence. It really depends on A, where I am, and B, what kind of mood I'm in. Sometimes I like to listen to music that sort of matches the mood or the energy of what it is that I'm creating. But other times I just watch reality TV in the background, or a documentary, something that I can sort of zone in and out of. I listen to music sometimes. I'd like to say that I listen to really cool things, but to be honest, I usually end up listening to sort of Lady Gaga or something like that. The best reaction that someone's ever had to my artwork was actually when I was at college, so quite a few years ago now, but I'd made this big sculpture for one of my final piece for my A-level course, and one of the teachers at the college came up to me and said that it was the most discussed final piece that they'd had in about 10 years at the college. I think what I hope people take away from my art is a reconsideration of the importance of imagination, and the significance of one's internal life. I think as we get older, we become more and more distanced from our imaginations, and we pay them far less attention, because we get sort of sucked into the pools of the external world, and trying to survive and having a job and making enough money and all of that kind of stuff. But honestly, I think that the worlds that we create in order to survive in the external world are so important and so unique. And I think there's real power and healing to be found in sharing those with others. So that's what I hope that people take from my art, that by sharing my inner world with people, they will be prompted to delve into theirs. This has been Molly Casares, aka Austerity Cornflakes. Thank you very much.